Good morning and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this Thursday morning, Thursday the 21st of August. Celtic 0-0 last night. Nothing surprised me about the way that the opposition played, nothing at all. Anybody that thought it was going to be an easy game, the warning signs had been there before. Who do we blame? I've done a poll already. Who do we blame for last night? Do you blame Rodgers? Do you blame the board? Or do you blame the want-away players? Brendan Rodgers said in the press conference that there are players at the club that last night. Do you blame Rodgers? That do not know if they're going to be there come the end of the transfer window. Who was he talking about? Was he talking about Dyson Maeda? Because let's face it, the look on Brendan Rodgers' face when Dyson was one-on-one with the keeper, and Dyson does one of the tamest shots that he's ever done, he wasn't surprised. Kyogo Furuhashi, towards the end of his Celtic career, did something similar. His shots weren't is crucial. You know, they weren't as on form as what they would have been. Players have a way of letting the manager know that they're not going to try 110% because they know that they've already asked for the transfer. They know that they've already had their agent come in and say, we want the move. Not allowing Marco Tilio to go because we don't have a player in is criminal. A player that doesn't want to be at Celtic. There are various people that shouldn't be at the club. And I'm not just talking about the two men that are sitting at the bottom of this picture here. Tell me in the comments what you think about these two men. There was a chance of sack the board rang around Celtic Park last night, but Brendan Rodgers said, jokingly when he was asked, it's never the board that gets sacked, is it? Celtic sack the board as a way of thinking back to the 1990s. It's not the 1990s. There's no one coming in to remove this board. Let's have a reality check this morning. And I mean that. As much as we hate the board and hate the fact that they do not back the managers, they do. I've kind of repeating myself. They go through a wee 2-year spell where it's all lovely and jubbly and they back the manager. And then it gets to the third year and they tend to say, well, let's put the brakes on this a minute. We're not going to spend 10, 20 million on players. And people will say, well, we brought Adam Ida for 9 million. It wasn't Brendan Rodgers' fault that we bought Adam Ida for 9 million. It was Peter Lawwell's son, who was head of recruitment at the time. He could have got Adam Ida for 3 million, but he did not negotiate the option to buy at the end of the season. So let's not get too over-enamoured about the Adam Ida situation. He's a player that is lacking of confidence. He's a player that is at best a number 2 striker. We played 3 strikers last night. Played 3 strikers. Michelle says she was at the game last night and Adam Ida looked as if he spat the dummy out when he was put back out onto the wing to allow Shin Yamada to come in. I don't think Shin Yamada's the answer either. I think that this perpetual need to spend less money on players is ultimately harming the club. And Shin Yamada might be a fantastic player, but he's not a Henrik Larsson. He's not a Chris Sutton. He's not a John Hartson. He doesn't seem to be a Lee Griffiths, to go into a more modern sense. And he's definitely nowhere near Odsonne Edouard or Moussa Dembele. Our expectations have been brought way down by the board. Way down. And we're expected to just admit that, this is our level. And it's sad. It's a sad indictment that the manager, Brendan Rodgers, stood after the game and said, we all know what we need. We all know what we need. Who do you go up front with next week, Baz? Kenny or Shin or Maeda, who's not interested, says Dell. I'm going to talk about the game next week, and I'm going to talk about the way that this team will play, because they will play the exact same way. This team from Kazakhstan will play the same way. They played the same way against Slovan Bratislava over the 2 legs. The exact same way. There was nothing new about the game last night. There was nothing surprised me. What did surprise me was the Celtic lack of intensity. Liam Scales taking 4 or 5 touches of the ball from the back. That gets in the mindset of the forward players. Why is he taking so many touches? And then it rubs off on other players. That negativity, that anxiety from Scales at the back and Carmen Carter-Vickers to move out quickly and slow the game down. And then we need to talk about Callum McGregor, who, after getting the booking, it shouldn't have been a booking, was almost invisible. We need to talk about the Kieran Tierney question. Everyone was like, bring in Kieran Tierney, he's better than Greg Taylor. At least Greg Taylor could last 90 minutes of a game. We've never brought in a left back to cover Kieran Tierney. We all knew we needed an additional left back. Inamura's not the answer. He never was the answer. He was a club buy, according to Brendan Rodgers. So as it stands this morning, this is what Celtic need before the end of the transfer window. Just to make us better. And not even to make us better. To make us as good as last season. Because right now, this football club, these players are not as good as the team that had a bad finish to last season. We were not good at you cannot say that we were good at the end of last season. The warning signs were there for Brendan Rodgers way before the cup final last season. The last game of the season was woeful. The games running up to it, we were nowhere near. We didn't finish on the high. Michelle says, Tierney and Maeda just don't get it. They keep getting in each other's way all the time. Yeah, but for me, that comes from a player that's, I'm not even going to try. Kieran Tierney will go all day long. But if you've got Dyson Maeda who's thinking, I'm wanting away, I'm not going to try 100%. This time last season, Dyson Maeda would pump right up that wing and he would run back 110 miles an hour to make a defensive tackle at the same time. Dyson Maeda's not even getting into second gear this season. We missed Greg Taylor being inverted. I never thought we would say that, but it's true. I don't know what... There's so many players that did not play. Is Donovan in the Champions League squad? I don't think so, Del. I don't think so. But we can make changes before we get in. Let me just double check. I'll go on to UEFA. Champions League squad. No, he's not. Oh, he is. Colbin Donovan is in the Champions League squad. So that gives us a little bit of respite. He was going to be getting put out on loan to either Scott Brown or an SPFL team. He wanted to go to an SPFL team. He reckons he's SPFL ready. He doesn't really fancy. But it looks like Celtic will maybe need to keep the 8. And this is the mad thing about it. We're going to have to keep an 18-year-old who's had no experience at SPFL level, but we're going to have to push him into Champions League football. We're going to have to... And this is how far down our expectations have come. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable that we've went that far back and regressed so much. As Seamus said, the midfield, especially Calmac, can't cope with man marking. They have to run continue to lose their marker. Haven't got a clue. Calmac hiding behind the player, marking him. If I can move, man. This is the reason why Benji was brought into the team, to play in that middle bit besides Callum McGregor. And he didn't do it well last night. He didn't do it well at all. We know that Callum McGregor can get man-marked in Scottish football, and you play the two in the midfield, but they were good at man-marking everyone. They were. It was just the way they do football. Like, how do we get rid of this board, in your opinion? There's only one way to get rid of a board and a takeover, and that's not going to happen. It's a PLC. The only way to get rid of Nicholson per se is mass demonstrations, and the Celtic support don't have the appetite for it. The Celtic support don't have the appetite to get up and try and motivate this team. You look at the stands. These people in the stands in this day and age don't have the appetite for protesting. They don't have the appetite at all for protesting. It's not a sad indictment on them. It's society in this day and age. You'll get the hardcore Green Brigade boys. You'll get a little bit of extra support from fans around the stadium. But when it comes to, and people can come online and say fuck the board and all the rest of it. I mean, I looked at Chris Sutton's. I'm going to do a video later on talking about the whole Chris Sutton scenario. So make sure you join us for that. I might actually do a Zoom call as well where people can phone in. And but as your coil, my loyalty, the game was shocking and left so early. Mate, I'm not calling out you. I've said for years I don't like people leaving early. It's not nothing that just aimed at you. If you think it's aimed at you, go back the 3,000 videos on this channel and go back 13 years, 14 years where there's videos of me at the game way after the final whistle. I've never been one for leaving early, and I've never liked people leaving early at Celtic. I think it's a bad situation that when you've got a lot of fans leave 10, 15 minutes to go. It was never the Celtic way. Never. It was never a Celtic thing to leave early. If I don't like it, that's my opinion. If you don't like the fact that I don't like it, I don't care. That's just my opinion. It wasn't a direct at you. I've directed this at fans leaving early for years, mate. And if you're going to get the hump about that, oh, you fucking didn't like the fact I left early, that's nothing new. It's my opinion, and it's, you know, we're all allowed our opinions. It wasn't a direct dig at you. But we move on. I'm not here to be... We need to be together as a fan base at this moment. The board and Tory-like people divide and conquer. So let's not fucking argue about silly stuff. Let's try and be together as a support here and try and think about the way forward. Because that's what the board want us to do. The board want us arguing with each other. The board want division. It's as simple as that. You know, we can all have our opinions. Don't get fucking caught up on opinions. What's my opinion going to do to your life today? Fuck all. What effect is it going to have on your life to do? Fuck all. It's as simple as that. It means nothing. It's just an opinion. So let's move on for it and try and move together as a fan base, because together as a fan base, we've proven in the past that we can create change and we can do change. We need to stick together more than anything. If you don't like Brendan Rodgers, I don't care. He's been fucked about as a manager. We need to be more together than ever at this point. Because if we don't, we're going to end up seeing Brendan Rodgers kicked out the door before the end of the season. We're going to get a Ronnie Dyler type manager coming in. We're going to be in the UEFA for the next 2 years, and you're going to have a big section of the top tier that won't be sold for the champions, for the UEFA. If that's what you want, fine. Stick together, try and put a bit of pressure on this mob and try and make a change for the better. Try and get them to open up the cash book, and we can succeed. Success is not about changing the board, because that's a hard thing to do in the modern game. So hard to do. But what we can do is we can try and put a little bit of pressure on them know that together, collectively, we're discontented with their actions and not providing the manager with the tools that he needs to get the best. Selling your best players. Kyogo. Jota being out injured. Not replacing Jota. Not getting a replacement in for Jota. And people say, well, you can't just buy in another 10, 6, 7, 8 million pound player. You can get someone on loan early on in the season. We're now going to have to get another loan player in to cover Alistair Johnston. Brendan wants away. Baz, his 3-year agreement is due to expire in 10 months. Says Mo. He's going to have a dig at Brendan in this. Would you, Mo, if you're the Celtic manager and you're on a 3-year deal and they're not taking the club in the direction you want to go, would you stay? That's my question to you. Never mind the whole Brendan's contract situation. Whatever happens 10 months, 11 months down the line has no bearing on the right now. In fact, it could have a worse bearing. And I've just reiterated that. You're going to get a Ronnie Dyler type manager in. You're going to be in the Europa for the next 2 or 3 years. And you're going to have a top tier section of the stadium where fans aren't going to come. That's the reality. Because it's happened before. It's happened before. We know it's happened before. That's all I'm saying. If we're a half decent team and I've beaten Champions League or improving quality, you know what we're doing. Alistair Johnston will be out for 3 months anyway, minimum of 3 months. Myra should have finished that chance. Forrest shot could have went in. I mean, he was unlucky. The keeper gets a fingertip to it and puts it onto the post. James Forrest. If that goes in, if that James Forrest shot goes in, regardless, he said he would do 3 years unless he's got sacked. He's came back to salvage his reputation. He's done that. Yeah, he has, Mo. He has done that. He's salvaged his reputation, and he was made promises by the board the first year, 2 years. And the manager's come out and said, if you want a caretaker manager, do you know, phone up Del Boy and see where Trigger is and get Trigger's broom and Trigger in. Because you just need a janitor. You don't need a manager at Celtic. You don't need a coach. And I tell you one thing, if Brendan Rodgers does leave, people that should follow him are the entire backroom of Celtic. We need fresh ideas. We need a new backroom staff. If Brendan Rodgers, if he does leave at the end of the season, he's also spun the narrative that the board may be responsible for his departure, which is genius on his part. I don't think that he's spun it. I think he's been honest. It's not spin. I know that you don't like Brendan, Mo, but it's not spin, is it? I'm not arguing about a cartoon character. The board and Rodgers is to blame for last night. We only looked dangerous when we played Myra through the middle, and Rodgers put him way back out wide. Crazy. We brought on another striker. We brought on the striker that you've all been calling out for. We've played 3 strikers. Brendan Rodgers can't. Do you know Brendan Rodgers could come out tomorrow and put 10 million to charity and folk would still think he was an arsehole. He played 3 strikers last night. You can only piss with the cock you've got. And playing 3 different strikers, none of them managed to do it. Dyson Maeda, how many shots did he have on goal? Oh yeah, he went through 1-on-1 with the keeper. And what did he do? A little tame shot. He's a spine-blinder badge. Yeah. Well, so is the board then. But I don't see you having. He's the only the man that's in front of the press conference every week, getting asked the same mundane questions. He gets asked maybe one journalistic question throughout a press conference. And when he did get asked that journalistic question at the last press conference, he was asked about, do you think that the club are in a more professional place than when you first come in? Are they more professional in transfers? Nice journalistic question. Does he give the honest answer? Does he spin it? No. Does he hide what he really wants to say? Yes. Brendan Rodgers can't come out and say what he really wants to say because he'll get sacked the next day. Brendan Rodgers should have turned around yesterday, and I said it last night. Brendan Rodgers should have turned around, pointed up, because if it's somebody like Jose Mourinho or somebody like that is erratic, they turn around, they point at the director's box, they'll point at them, eyes, and then do this. This is what you've created. This is your fault. I've been telling you for months. And stop saying that it's Brendan Rodgers' fault, because every single person in this chat has been saying that we need better players, we need this, we need that. But all of a sudden it's Brendan Rodgers' shot. Who do we play next week? Up top, says Dell. I don't think that it's... They will play the exact same system. They will play the exact same way. It's about our lack of pace down the wings yesterday. It's about our lack of pace at the back. We played 3 different strikers last night. None of them could score. Adam Ida, the weight of the world is on Adam Ida. Brendan's a scapegoat for the hierarchy. It is that. We've decimated our front line, and we're reduced to saying, who the fuck do we play? Nico Kuhn, absolutely fantastic this time last year. Daiz Maeda, fantastic. Kyogo, his movement. Shin Yamada's nowhere near Kyogo. Whoever spun the story from Celtic, and it wasn't Brendan Rodgers, whoever spun the story that Shin Yamada was faster than Kyogo, more mobile than Kyogo, and faster than Daiz Maeda. I tell you one thing, and it's amazing how much more balls and crosses we got in when Adam Ida left the pitch. That was something that was picked up by people last season also. Play Johnny Kenny up front. I think we need to go, in my honest opinion, we need 2 strikers up front. Even Slovan Bratislava played 2 strikers up front and they couldn't beat them. This team wants to drag it out and get to penalties. They did the exact same with Slovan Bratislava. They nullified anything, any type of movement in front of their box at all. They played the exact same way. We didn't have I thought we would win because of our pace. The pace was non-existent. Second half it was good. Second half the one-touch football was back. I thought we would start with that. But as Derwin told my pal Barry, it's a business. And the next day he was flying on his private jet to a golf course in Bermuda. It is a business. But at the same time, the business success relies on the working components of the business. A car mechanic is only as good as the tools he gets, because a mechanic can't go in and start stripping an engine if he doesn't have a toolkit. If an accountant doesn't have computer software to speed up all the accounting stuff, he's then sitting at a desk for 180 hours a week because he's doing everything with paper, and he's got a team of about 300 assistants assisting him. A brain surgeon can't open your head up if he doesn't have a scalpel. If you don't have the right tools, you can't get the job done right. It is as simple as that. And yes, whilst it is, and the club is a business, it's a business that share price and value goes up with success. And success means getting into the Champions League. The fact that if we don't get into the Champions League will cost the club £40 million. We've got 20 million sitting in the bank already from transfers this season. If we lose the game on Tuesday, we'll sell Dyes and Maeda the very next day. So that's the £40 million covered. Banked. Closed shut. Transfer kitty for next season. The board will say, but wait a minute, Celtic. Aren't we sitting with 100 million in the bank? It's not about spending 20, 30 million pound on one player. It's not about spending. It's about getting the players in enough time. I've been through brain surgery, I can confirm. Oh dear, where is that one? No, I can't. We didn't do well enough in stretching their lines. Boomf. No, we didn't do that. Quinny's in the house. How you doing, mate? Do you want to come on and chat? Take the heat off me this morning. Well, a minute till I get it. If you've got time, jump on. No, that's not it. Copy it. Jump on, Quinny. I'm on your morning walk. He's on his morning walk. Damn. Just jump, just do walk and talk. You can walk and talk on your phone, man. Can walk and talk. Right, let's delete that before some other reprobate starts trying to get in. Right, it's cool. I'll catch. Give me a message, Quinny, and we'll do a Zoom call, and we'll get a load of Celtic fans on, and they can ask me and you questions. He's outside walking. You can do it. So yeah, we'll do a Zoom call this afternoon. We can get as many people on, and we can get 10 people on at one time. I'll get Quinny on if he's got time, and we'll get as many fans. I don't want people that are... we'll get as many on as we can this afternoon. There we go. So yeah, we'll do that. I'll give you a message on Twitter. How many shots do we have? It doesn't matter how many shots we have. This team will play the exact same way next week. Tuesday night they'll play the same way. They'll sit back with that bank of 5, 6 in the box, and then another bank of 4 sitting in front of the box, and they'll make it as hard as anything for Celtic to score. There's nothing new in the game. There's nothing new in the way that they played. So it's all about trying to pull them out. And for me, Kasper Schmeichel was too slow. There was one time that Kasper Schmeichel had the ball. They were away up an hour half, and Kasper Schmeichel slowed the game down. What the hell was that about? Celtic of old is straight up the pitch. Do you know, when a team's on an attack like that, the keeper gets the ball, quick break, go. That's how Henrik Larsson scored so many goals. That's how Chris Sutton scored these goals. Diddy Agat up one side, Alan Thompson, quick break out, burst the guts down the pitch, cross, goal. We don't play like that. 11 shots, 3 on target. A lot of rage this morning, Baz. Yeah, Dave, there's a lot of rage for a lot of people. And let's get it out this afternoon. We'll do a Zoom call this afternoon. Desmond Lawwell turned the club into a business. Andy Walker said years ago, it's now a commodities organisation. It is what it is. Do you know, there's not a... From a business point of view, the clubs run well. But sometimes businessmen, like Michael Nicholson, are risk averse. Sometimes you can have businessmen that just go, do you know what? It's worth the gamble. You can take calculated gambles. And what we have not done, we have not taken a calculated gamble this season, this summer. And that's the fact. Why can't Tierney finish a game? Why didn't we get another left back in to cover Tierney? We knew we needed 2 left backs in this summer. We knew we needed 2 left backs in, and we didn't do it. Do you know, there's so many questions that need answered, and it's not, will Brendan Rodgers be the manager in 2 months' time? It's not, can we sack the board? There's so many other questions that the board need to answer. And Brendan Rodgers, people could say, you know, Brendan's just, he's deflecting it. He's not. He's talking about exactly what everyone has said for months. We sat at the end of last season and people said to me, what do we need? People said, what do we need going into next season? I said we needed 2 left backs because we had lost both our left backs. We were bringing in Kieran Tierney. We knew that was a done deal. I still said we needed another left back, and Amura wasn't that. He's not the left back of choice. Playing professional football for 1 year, he'll get kicked all about up and down the SPFL. That's not. The team is 90% Ange's team who he scouted himself. Rodgers' recruitment has been shocking. 40 players brought in and 4 of them have been good. You're forgetting that the players that were brought in the first season that Brendan Rodgers was here were players that had already been scouted by Celtic and were ticked off by Ange Postecoglou. Let's stop the Ange love, because the reality is Ange has his own words said, you know, we need to stop buying £2 million players. Let's buy a £10 million player and turn it. Go back and look up the interviews. You know, I don't sit here and make shit up. That's exactly what Ange said. And that's in the back of his mind. And he's going, do you know what? I can go to Spurs. I could spend 20, 30, 40 million pound on players, bring in a better standard player. Oh, look at that. He wins the Europa League. Even when he had to play youngsters throughout the season, he still manages to get through and win the Europa League because he's spending more on players. More on players. I'm telling you, Baz, we will flop out this tie, our worst result in a century. I don't think it's the worst result in a century. I think Ronny Deila away to Malmo was as bad as this. Just as bad as this. Brown Water, good start from the start. I mean, I seen a comment there. Playing Scales at left back. Exactly. Lywell and Muteman have gambled this season. They expect us to qualify for the Champions League before we spent. This is a lot worse than the COVID season. Exactly, mate. It's 2020 all over again. Luckily, they're just fans in the stadium. And they might start banning them. Because that'll be the next thing. They'll ban the Green Brigade. They're sitting waiting. You see the amount of stewards. There's never been so many stewards on the terrace. People do not migrate. And people, even going back to when I was sitting in 110, people do not migrate through the stand, through this main concourse of the stadium, and climb over the fence, the wee barrier railing, to get into 111. They get in through 111 up the staircase and in. Having that excess of stewarding is sending out a signal by the board. We're waiting on you doing something. We're waiting on one person fucking it up for you so we can ban you. Much cash is on the line now. Not got defensive all over our both. Let me just jump through these. We need players in. For now, not 2 years down the line. Yeah, we do that. But we've been saying that since last year. Yeah, 5-0 to Armada. Yeah, don't even remind me about that. 1-0 to Red Imps. The board don't like the Green Brigade. A lot of the Celtic fans don't like the board. So there's not much love lost, is there? But anyway, we've been on for 34 minutes this morning. Should we jump? Yeah, we should stay on. We're on a roll this morning. Stay on for the hour. Start with the negative narrative. Support your club. Are you reading the comments? I support the club. I support the club 100%. But if you don't like the reality of the situation, is it not fair to talk about the reality of the situation, Rocco? Do we just sweep it under the carpet, the reality of what's going on? Because all we can do is talk about the here and now. And if that's coming along as a negative narrative, it's the reality of all those fans that booed at the end of the match last night. Let's not forget that we heard boos at Celtic Park. Not just from the Green Brigade, not just from the boys. Do you know, those boos that came around the stadium last night was more than 2,000 or 3,000 fans. So, I can only speak about the reality of the situation. And if that's got a negative connotation because of the actions of the board, look at their faces of the game last night. That's a screenshot from the game. They know that they've fucked up. But they don't have to answer to the media. They don't need to speak to fans on the street. A couple of seasons ago, Peter Lawwell was at Motherwell, and he told a fan to calm the fuck down. It was a similar scenario. It was a similar scenario that during this time of year, the really slow, mundane way that this hierarchy gets things done at Celtic, but they try and shut you down. They stop you from having your opinion. I'm glad I'm this side of the camera and get to have my opinion. And you can have your opinion this afternoon. So, Rocco, feel free to come on. Feel free to come on and you can have your opinion. We need to look at the game last night. Brendan originally got to play through them. Gus, they played the exact same way. You know, we fail to play through this type of setup on a week-to-week basis. We don't have the players. We didn't have the speed. You know, there was a lot of things went wrong. They're exploiting our loyalty. If the club didn't have the support, we wouldn't be as successful. Celtic fans are entitled to their opinion. Yeah, they are that. Now, to the great... yeah. Right, let's go up see if there's any... Do you know the worrying thing about it for me? Is usually after a game like that last night, and normally after a game at Celtic Park, there's little leakages of potential players coming in. There's radio silence. Nobody's talking about anything that they might have heard with players coming in. And I think that's the bigger worry. That's the bigger worry. Is that the men at the top, they're not even telling Brendan what's going on. So anyway, there was a poll question went out this morning. Who's to blame for last night? Was it Brendan Rodgers? Was it the board? Or was it the want away players? There's been over 336 votes, and Brendan Rodgers got 9%. The board got 78%, and the want away players... It doesn't take a genius to work out who the want away players were last night. I think it was laid bare for all to see what player potentially wants away. We're going to finish that poll up. Fantastic. Thank you to everyone who voted. Nothing like billionaires and multimillionaires talking down to working class Catholics, yeah. We're getting humped over there like a Labrador on Viagra. No, we're not. They will try and go to penalties. You know, Quinny reckons that they're the quality of St Mirren. Yeah, mate, they are. And they played... the warning signs were there, mate. Do you know, I said a week before we played them, they will play like St Mirren. They'll sit back and we can't get through it. Anyway, that's me done and dusted for this morning. Check out the channel later on, and we will do a Celtic Zoom today to get the opinions of as many Celtic fans as possible. I think we might do it around about 4:30 Celtic Park time. So if you are around 4:30 Celtic Park times, 4:30 till maybe 5:30, jump on the Celtic Zoom and have your say. On that note, have a fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are. And let's try and stick together, because together we can achieve something. When we're all disagreeing and all pulling in different directions, it does the fan base no good, it does the team no good, and there's only one winners. And the one winners are only ever the board.